Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with the esteemed Dr. Eric Lopkin. And, elections have consequences, Dr. Lopkin, and we're just starting to see the consequences. There's a whole push, and it's only been 3 months, indoctrination, reprogramming about minority rights, the plot of the African Americans. List goes on, but it's more than just a passive educational initiative. It's a reprogramming initiative, and I'd like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's been going on for quite a while. It's just really taking off now, especially since the radical left really seems to be in charge of the Democratic Party now, and it's something that unfortunately they're not looking at with balance. It's fantastic for students to learn about African American history and Asian American history. I mean, I remember, when I learned history, back when dinosaurs walked the earth, when you learned about World War II, they never talked about the Japanese internment camps. That was an aspect of history we didn't learn. So balancing out history, there's a good thing, but the problem is they're going overboard now, and they're teaching, they're going to teach sensitivity, which, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but they're doing it at the expense of reading, writing, and math.
Oh, no, that's going out the window. 100% correct. And the other thing is, I think part of a real education is weighing pros and cons, no pun intended, black and white. You get that.
Yeah.
Now it's everything, Africa would be launching the space shuttle if it wasn't for, the white man's influence. It's lost all sense of reality and perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's become less about teaching history as history really was and more about an agenda. And that agenda is going to fall short. I mean, I was blown away by, I think it was the University of Oregon. One of their administrators made a statement that math is racist because you have to show your work and get a right answer. And I'm like, this statement just blew me away. And the only thing I can respond to this is, get into an airplane. Your landing is calculated based on math. Do you really think close enough is good enough to calculate how you're going to land at an airport?
Dr. Lopkin, sometimes, as you always do, you nail it. And it's about a social agenda versus reading, writing, and arithmetic. They've all taken the SATs. They're gone. Do you know that, Dr. Lopkin?
I didn't realize they were gone. I know my son is actually still has to take them. So I'm surprised to hear you say
everyone
that.
Takes them, but you could go to UConn. I don't think they even require an SAT. So the bottom line is everything has to be about a social agenda. And we used to do a business show. How does this relate to the global competition for intelligence? If you have a country like China, and possibly Europe, that is teaching, reading, writing, and arithmetic, how are you going to survive if you're teaching about, I don't know, racial injustice, which is fine for a segment of, but not your entire agenda.
Our education system is badly damaged, and every year it does worse and worse when compared to especially European countries. But yes, even the Chinese, Japanese certainly, because there's nothing wrong with a lot of the goals that the liberals want to achieve. But the fact of the matter is they're doing them completely wrong. You don't get equality by teaching sensitivity and changing the what people are learning. You get equality by making sure African American students, Caucasian students, Asian American students, Hispanic American students all have access to a high quality education. And that means everybody learning to read, everybody learning to write, everybody learning to do math, not making some bullshit excuse that, oh, well, it's too hard. This group can't do it. Of course they can do it. You can't tell me that an African American student isn't just as intelligent as a Caucasian student when they're given the same opportunities.
You can't rewrite history and make everything so pathetically, ridiculously simplistic that one side is good, one side's bad, and that's what we're coming to. And by the way, before Nixon created the Department of Education, we were like in the top 3 of industrialized nations in education. Essentially, we're dead last now. Yeah, I mean, we're better than Zimbabwe. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
nation.
But we do keep falling, and it's because the basic problem with the liberal agenda, again, as I said, isn't the goals that they're trying to achieve. It's the fact that they approach these goals with the attitude that, oh, these groups need to be helped by us.
I do stand a little bit corrected that we all have goals. I have a goal to be like Tinkerbell. But a goal does not mean that it's reality. Yeah, I have a goal to be like, Chuck Yeager. I mean, fine. We all have goals, but you need to blend reality into goals, and I think that's the problem with the liberal agenda. Speaking of the liberal agenda, we have the infrastructure bill. And of course, only a segment of that is actually tied to anything to do with infrastructure, correct?
Yeah, very little of the infrastructure bill actually has to do with our infrastructure. A lot of it is being taken from the Green New Deal that the Democrats wanted to pass. And it's funny because Biden has said this is going to be about a $2 trillion bill. A couple of Democrats have said, well, it's $2 to $3 trillion. The Republicans are going, you're spending far too much. We have to, scale this back. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came out today and said, we're not spending nearly enough. This should be at least $10 trillion.
Well, I'm sorry to say, I've been around the block, and I think we're almost at a failed state situation. I know that sounds dramatic, but when you're talking 10 trillion and even, in some of the news outlets, Biden, part of it is transforming America into a green economy. Yeah, someone that has maybe an IQ of like 70 is going to have the brains to convert America into a green economy. I mean, the whole thing, this is something that if we saw 20 years ago, we would walk out of a movie theater, Dr. Lotkin, and say, it's crazy. You got a senile president that's talking about some grandiose Green New Deal, and you got Ocasio-Cortez, who was a bartender, and she's leading. You would walk out and say this movie is pathetic. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, part of the big problem is they started out this bill lying about why they need the bill, because they've come out point blank and they said, we're going to raise the corporate income tax. So they're going to do away with the cut that happened under Trump to encourage businesses to keep jobs here. Well, we saw jobs leaving America at a historic low during the Trump administration. When Biden took over, all of a sudden, these companies started moving jobs overseas again. So they're absolutely lying about the fact that this is their goal. Because
but liberals are all built on emotion. I have some liberal fans who are like, well, these corporations have to pay. I'm like, all you're doing is transferring the cost. Corporations work out of their international corporations, out of their own best interest. You tax them, check please, we'll go to Ireland, who is like zero corporate.
Well, actually, it's simpler than that, though. Because when you tax the corporations, a corporate tax is a cost. That means the cost of goods and services that they're selling go up. If they're paying more, they're not going to give their employees raises because they've got to make up this shortfall
now. No, it's all
now.
that, but the bottom line is even the bigger picture is if you're taxed in Connecticut or in the United States, you're just not going to hire in the United States.
Exactly. Yes.
Good jobs that would have spurred the economy aren't going to take. Now you'll get Walmart jobs. I guess the real question is, when does this crap end, Dr. Lockman? Or does it end? Or is America too stupid to realize? I think it might be that America's just point, just too stupid.
You know when it ends? We were just talking about the liberal agenda in terms of education. This ends when our education system starts teaching economics again in K through 12, not waiting for college. It ends when we start teaching civics again in K through 12.
It never ends then. Sorry.
That's one of the things that they've been talking about in this infrastructure bill is, we want to give free community college. Giving more free education is not the answer. We need to fix the education we have rather than breaking it more, which is what the Democrats are trying to do.
And I think it's not all it's not all, in terms of positive benefit. Breaking the education system helps them because you have more dependent people. We'll
Absolutely.
Close on that, Dr.
And now, we've got a Supreme Court case coming up talking about education where the NCAA is being sued by student athletes because they want to make money off of their athletic prowess. They want to do endorsements. They want to get paid to play.
You know what's going to happen about that? Any school that's not in the Big Ten or whatever, forget about sports. I don't even want to touch it.
Well, you know what? That's actually what should happen. If the college students can get paid to do athletics, one, take away their scholarships. If they're getting paid, they don't need a scholarship. Two, nail them down on the academics. You always hear year after year, this team is disqualified from play or that team is disqualified from play.
The days of student athletes are like the days of John Glenn. Okay, if you believe that, then I got a bridge to sell you.
And quite frankly, you know what? If the NCAA is going to serve as the minor leagues for basketball, football, then let the NBA and let the NHL, not the NHL, the NFL foot the bill for it.
The same
way Major League Baseball and the National Hockey Association have minor league teams, let the NFL and NBA foot the bill for the NCAA and use it as their minor league.
I agree.
Don't let the state taxes pay for it.
Yeah, if you're not dealing with top-tiered educational institutions, it is a minor league for the NFL and for the NBA. Dr. Lopkin, unfortunately, we'll not have a live show this Friday, but we'll be back next week. Thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Thank our listeners.
We'll see you next week. You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.